Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm going to follow up on the two previous talk speakers that told about the evidence there and the opportunities we have now and what we're doing in the pre-hospital care in recognizing stroke from a paramedic point of view, but I'm also going to talk about implementation in a bigger perspective, actually. So you got my contact information. We are supported. I didn't get anything from Lippert Medical or Tryg Foundation, but we are supported in our research from a Danish foundation and from Lippert Foundation for what we're doing. From the Lippert Foundation in a Center of Excellence unrestricted research grant. And also this project that I'm going to tell you about is the Udstein meeting was supported by the Lippert Foundation. I'm coming from the other part of the world, in Scandinavia, Copenhagen in Denmark. And if you actually see what is on the upper side of Denmark, you will find yourself in just in the eastern part, or the east in the sea east of New Zealand. So it's actually the opposite part of the world. Nature and landscape are quite different. We have a sky mountain in Denmark which is 200 meters high. So you can actually do it by bike. And it's quite different here in New Zealand and Australia as well. We have nearly the same population, 5.8 million in Denmark, in a smaller place actually. And we, like you, have a queen from abroad. Your queen is near to Denmark, is in England, as far as I know. And the Danish queen is from where? Tasmania, yeah, right. But now she's Danish. I have to emphasize that. Yes, she is. She supported the European EMS Congress as a patron in 16, 17, and 18. I just forgot to say that actually my wife and I planned to stay in Sicily for a holiday. But then we decided I persuaded her to go to New Zealand and support the economy of New Zealand, and change it from a summer holiday to a winter holiday, and we didn't regret that. That's really fine. But when I heard the data on stroke, I wonder if we should just stay in Auckland for the rest of the days. I don't know. But we share the same challenges in EMS, including stroke care. No doubt about that. So what I'm going to tell shortly about the challenges in stroke care, we already touched upon those. And then the main question here is, can we actually use the experience we have from cardiac arrest and cardiology care for the last 25, 30 years to proceed faster in stroke care than we actually have been doing? And that was the challenge for the Udstein meeting. And that is what I'm going to tell you about. And also a bit about what is an Udstein meeting actually, and what came out of that Udstein meeting on stroke care. So that is the short agenda for this one. I'll start with this movie. It was shown during the EMS Congress, European EMS Congress 2017 in Copenhagen, where we had stroke as an agenda point, main key speaker there. And it was just to illustrate, I just want to show you to illustrate the two different causes you can have in stroke care by this. And now the happy version. So this is actually what we did. Well, sorry, can you help me, Frank, please? To the next slide. This is actually the two causes you might have. One is ending up with a bad outcome, and the other one is actually going back to work. It's the same disease. It depends on how we are acting in the different links in the chain of survival. And what is important here is it takes a system to save a life. At the Utstein meeting we came up with these 10 steps to improve survival. Later you will see tomorrow, we'll get this paper, Acting on the Call, which was a Utstein paper coming out based on cardiac arrest. The idea was actually, could we translate that into stroke care? I can tell you, I'll just go back here a bit, of course, I'll just comment on that one later. Because what we, in the Global Resuscitation Alliance, we have meetings, that's Seattle, Europe, Asia, and Australia and New Zealand. And we have meetings discussing cardiac arrest and the 10 steps to improve survival there. And at one of the meetings, we started discussing stroke care, actually, and because we're struggling with that in Denmark and in Europe. And David Waters said that you were working with that as well here, down under. And then we thought that maybe we should try to see if we can translate the 10 steps to improve survival in cardiac arrest into 10 steps to improve survival for stroke care. And that was the idea. And we had that meeting. I'll just show you to make sure that you actually get the steps there. Sorry, I need your help again. Thank you. So first of all, we decided to keep to 10 programs or 10 steps. And the 10 programs are: establish a stroke registry. You're far in that way here in New Zealand. A lot of people actually lack that information. Another one which is very important is public awareness about stroke. If people don't call, we don't have a chance to help them. If they wait too long, it's too late. That is also part of public education, another step that needs to be worked on. And then early recognition by dispatchers, as we just heard, and also paramedics when the ambulance arrive. Also rapid dispatch, which is part of the program in cardiac arrest. Rapid dispatch, as soon as you have the suspicion that this might be a stroke, dispatch your resources and make a further assessment later on. And then we had a step or program called pre-hospital care and triage to appropriate facility. And that can be discussed a lot. We heard about stroke centers here in New Zealand, and that is an ongoing discussion where should we actually draw the line in experience and in outcome and resources. But that is important, and that step also includes inter-hospital transfer of patients. And then in-hospital care, which is actually in that Utstein meeting based on emergency department treatment or stroke care treatment in hospital. And we started calling it advanced, but actually what we mean here is basic, because it's the basic thing that actually saves people. Of course, it's the thrombolysis or revascularization that is necessary, but if you don't do the basics right, you will have a bad outcome anyhow. And then use smart technology, another one which we want to emphasize as part of this meeting. And then you might say, well, does that work in the third countries or developing EMS systems? Yes, as some of the people from those systems actually told me. Well, actually we have more smartphones in our country than we have toilets. So that is one of the messages there, that this is the way to go forward. If you don't have that many resources, you always have smartphones and use that technology. And then work towards accountability. Make your data visible and report that, and work towards a culture of excellence, which includes all the steps there. You can choose one program and you can improve in that program if you're in a dispatch center, if you are working pre-hospitally, or if you're working in hospital, but it's the whole program that actually provides the optimal care for the patient. So that was just that. For what is the challenge of stroke care, actually? Well, Anthony Rudd, one of the leading stroke physicians in Europe, was part of that meeting. And just to give this, actually the exact same figure as we just heard. There's going to be an increase, a tremendous increase in death, but also in survivors, and there's going to be a great or very big increase in daily losses as well. So these are European data, but it's actually the same as we just heard from New Zealand and other parts of the world as well. And it seems easy, doesn't it? But we just heard the paramedic study there. It is not easy. It's not easy on the dispatch center. It's not easy for the paramedics, and it's not easy for the family or the patients themselves. So that we often forget. People don't know the symptoms of stroke. People don't realize their own symptoms of stroke. People don't know the stroke is a time-critical emergency, which is it now. And now we have a treatment to offer them, but they don't know that there's a treatment to be offered, and therefore they don't call the emergency number. Usually it would be about 20% that would call the emergency number. The rest of the patients would go to GPs, go to the emergency department, get a diagnosis later, too late actually. We looked at the data in Denmark, that are the figures actually, but it also goes for the dispatch center. Our staff at the dispatch center don't always identify stroke correctly, and therefore they do not dispatch the right priority response. We looked at stroke care or stroke patients in our dispatch center for 1 year, and we identified 67% of the strokes when people called. We identified it during the call to the dispatch center, and the rest were identified when with the arrival of the ambulance personnel, the paramedics there. And patients are not always taken directly to the stroke center. They are in Copenhagen, but that has been a dispute as well. And now we have the facilities to take care of stroke, comprehensive stroke care 24/7 in one center. So back to the Utstein meeting. Why was it an Utstein guideline? Utstein is an abbey in Norway, and it actually started back in 1990. It's known for cardiac arrest recommendations. This is an old picture from 1990, the first Utstein meeting coming up with Utstein recommendation on reporting cardiac arrest. This was the beginning for cardiac arrest guidelines implementation. But it's a long time ago, isn't it? And this was the Utstein 2018. What has changed? The weather got better? Yes. You got more women there, actually 1/3. In the first, there were no women at all. What we actually looked at, or what we stand on the shoulders of the giants, Douglas Chamberlain, who attended the first Utstein meeting back in the 90s, Mickey Eisenberg, who also attended the first meeting. He was attending the 15 meeting we had on stroke care as well, and he was behind this meeting in 2018 to support us. This is the first paper that came out of Utstein meeting, since a lot have come out from that concept, and this is a famous one, formula of survival. And that is actually what the Global Resuscitation Alliance builds on. But this is from 27, so it's 11 years ago now. We had a meeting in 2015 on, Mickey Eisenberg chaired that, on cardiac arrest. We had a lot of experience in cardiac arrest for 25 years. We haven't seen much improvement in outcome in these 25 years in general. It was 6 to 7% of survivals. And if you look at the recent publication in Paramedic 2 study from UK, 5,000, or was it 8,000 patients? It was 8,000 patients from 5 different big centers in UK. No difference in adrenaline or epinephrine, and no epinephrine. And that was maybe not a surprise, at least not to me. But what was the surprise? That the outcome was 2 to 3% only. 2 to 3% cardiac arrest outcome in UK last year, just published. And that was why this meeting was set up actually, that we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of education, we haven't improved much, what to do then? And you will hear more about it tomorrow by Andal and Peter Kudenchov, and you will get this acting on the call paper as well, being handed out. But that meeting came out with recommendation, the 10 steps to improve survival from Resuscitation Academy, translated into implementation in general, and is being published. And the follow-up meeting, we established the Global Resuscitation Alliance, which was to implement. First of all, it was to increase survival by 50%, but also to implement best practice in EMS and communities. And these were the actually idea that David Waters and myself, we got when we discussed this at a meeting, that maybe we could use those steps and translate it into stroke care. I just want to tell you who's part of the Global Resuscitation Alliance board. These are the board members: Asia, Australasia, Europe, US, and from Australian and New Zealand, it is David Waters and Tony Walker, who is doing a great job there at the board. And we are working together with ILCO, American Heart Association, regional resuscitation councils, and the Federation of International Red Cross as well. The last update was this one with 2070 cases of best practice from different parts of the world. And what we're looking for now for the Woodstand paper on stroke is also cases for best practices. I can hear that you have best practices cases here from New Zealand. That would be nice to get into that paper. And I know that David is going to report that to or send out a call for that. This meeting was in April, I think it was, Anna, wasn't it? Short time ago. So we don't have the final result yet. We have international experts coming from all over the world, 32 different people coming. I just mentioned 2 countries, and then we have half of the world, that would be China and India. But actually we had 4 people from Australia and New Zealand, and that is a lot compared to the Euro population. And they had a huge impact on the discussion there. You'll see some of the people here. Well, who's from? On the left is, yeah, Mick, and you will hear more about him later today. And Anna is here as well. And also from Australia, I can't find the name. But we actually got, Anna's down there, Chris is here, and David is here. So you got 4 people representing Australia and New Zealand in this international panel. What we looked at was actually what is important is registry. It's early recognition, but it's also pre-hospital care. So this is kind of the link that we have. We had chairs for these sessions. They write it up, all the discussions we had there. And just to show you what was discussed, for instance, in awareness, first of all, in awareness, we have, that's the next slide, we have this chain of survival from cardiac arrest, and we want to change that into a stroke survival, but it should actually look like this. Looking at the impact that we have, if we don't get people aware of the symptoms of stroke and that this is an emergency, they won't call the EMS, that you won't dispatch the ambulances, you won't have a chance to save these people for a good outcome. So we put emphasis on the first part of the link there as well. So, for instance, in public awareness, the discussion, everybody had a chance to contribute to that one, and these were the questions we asked them, and we got very good answers there, and the chairs did write their part of the paragraph in the publication, which is going to be written all together now and sent for publication. And early recognition, the same as you just discussed, and I asked about the sensitivity there, and that is very important, and one of the questions as well that was addressed during that meeting. So all the questions that we had beforehand was addressed, and we got answers to that, and it's going to be part of the elaborated 10 steps. So we will have the 10 steps, and we will have chapters on each on what to do to implement that. But as I said, these are draft for the 10 programs because the final version haven't been distributed to all the contributors for the Utstein meeting there. So it might change a bit, but I think we are nearly there. So what we are looking for now are like this one, 27 different cases and of good practices from around the world. And we already have some, but it's your chance actually to get New Zealand and Australia on the map there. So for the Global Resuscitation Alliance, we have a scientific paper on implementation in review. We have a scientific paper on developing EMS systems, the 10 steps applied in developing EMS system coming up, and then this Utstein translation of the 10 programs to emergency stroke care, which is in writing. And so this is actually the first time that we represent the work that we have been doing and the ideas that we have there. So in summary, we have a common challenge in stroke care. As you know, as you have seen, it's actually the same all over the world. We have a lot of science. We have recent AHA guidelines with recommendations, but these are built on the science we have, and it is not actually telling us exactly how to implement it. But we have a lot of good practices and experience from out-of-hospital cardiac arrest that we know how to improve. And the Global Resuscitation Alliance and Resuscitation Academy's 10 program has now been translated into emergency stroke care with the methodology of the Utstein meeting there. So the Utstein publication with recommendation, including cases of best practices to come, and then we always have to remember that the patient is in the center of our thoughts, and remember the movie about Tom, because this is where we want to change from a bad outcome to the best outcome we can have. And to do that, it takes a system to save a life, and it takes all of us to be part of that. So, and few references for those who need that, but you'll get this paper tomorrow. So thank you very much.